On the last day of its IPO, the Indian Energy Exchange had to cancel allotment of shares to foreign anchor investors. This is probably the first time an IPO has witnessed a change in its anchor books hours away from closing the issue. The reason for this was regulatory confusion. Sajit Mankat of Bloomberg Quint joins us to explain what exactly went wrong. Sajit, it was an interesting last day for the IEX IPO. Could you actually break down what happened today?
That's right. It was an interesting day, actually the closing day for Indian Energy Exchange IPO. On the last day of the IPO, the bankers and the company had to halve the entire anchor book. Nearly half of the anchor book had gone to the foreign portfolio investors who had put in the bids, and they were allotted short shares on Friday when the anchor book closed. And over a period of from Monday onwards, there has been some regulatory confusion which was going on in the entire IPO, and that led to finally the bankers and company deciding that they will exclude or they will not allow foreign portfolio investors to be part of the issuance, and that these investors will be allowed to enter the company once the company lists on the stock exchange, and that will happen in the next 10 days. So it was a confusing or important day for that IPO in that sense.
Right, Sajid, and also you mentioned regulatory confusion. Could you explain to us to some extent what that regulatory confusion was that actually stopped foreign investors from investing in this particular IPO?
Well, there was two instances here. One was the FDI regulation. The regulation very categorically states that in case of power exchanges which are under the ambit of CERC, which is Central Electric Regulatory Commission, foreign direct investment or FPIs can only invest in the secondary market. They cannot. That means they cannot participate in an IPO. They can invest once the IPO the company lists on the market. They can trade and they can take positions in the company. The argument of the bankers was that since this IPO is an offer for sale by existing shareholders, it is a secondary transaction, and hence foreign institutional investors can invest and be part of the IPO as a whole. But when the custodians raised this issue with the SEBI, which is a market regulator, the regulator had a different viewpoint on this. The regulator stated that in a secondary market, it is very, as per the foreign portfolio investors guidelines regulation, which is of 2014, foreign portfolio investors can participate in secondary market only through recognized stockbrokers. Now, in the case of an IPO, there is no stockbroker which is part of the IPO process. Only merchant bankers who are part of the process, and so foreign portfolio investors cannot participate in such an IPO where secondary market transaction is happening unless it is done through a stock broker. So that created a big confusion, because it will have a ramification for future IPOs as well, where it is completely led by offer for sale by existing shareholders. So that's something SEBI will have to work on and come out with a clarification. But till then, the bankers and the company decided to exclude FPIs. By the way, the IPO closed today, and it was oversubscribed by 2.2 times.
All right, Sujit, thank you for that update. But there's more to that story. In fact, Bloomberg Quint spoke to S.N. Goyal, the CEO of IEX, who actually said that it was indeed regulatory issues that forced the company to cut its anchor IPO allotment. Listen in.
See, post receipt of the bids from anchor investors, certain custodians had communicated to the BRLMs that FPI shall not be eligible to participate in the offer. It is probably because of the view taken by the legal team regarding some regulatory provisions. And the company, along with the BRLM, we discussed this issue with the regulator, but then the time was very short, and it was not possible to give some clarification to them. And accordingly, to unnecessarily complicate the issue, we decided that let FPI not participate in the issue, let this be a purely domestic issue.